Class is now in session. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he gives you tips, techniques, and strategies to grow and monetize your podcast. Live in his Facebook group, The Better Method of Daily Audience Growth for Independent Podcasters. Learn from him and his special guests as they help you become the next podcast superstar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcasters of all ages, put your hands together for your host, Phil Better. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the podcast series where I, Phil Better, help you take your podcast to the next level, either in monetization or through growth with audience. I am so happy to be here, guys. I thank you for sturdy showing up live, hashtag live. If you are in the comments live, watching live, enjoying the show live, make sure you hit me with that hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay gang. I want to see my replayers up. I know it's like 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. It's like, oh, it's kind of early. And in the West Coast, it's only noon. So you're having lunch if you're on the West Coast. If you're anywhere else, it's probably super late. I don't know. I don't understand time zones. I've never have, but here we are. Anyways, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. Today's episode is specifically about getting 10 times the listeners with 3 proven strategies for writing episode titles. Right there in the right in the top of this title. If you don't understand how important that title is to getting more listeners, then this episode is for you. The title, right? Pretty much what the title of this episode is pretty much telling you exactly what the 3 proven strategies are. I'm telling you what you need or what you're going to do writing episode titles, so you know what the episode is about. I'm going to give you 3 proven strategies. You know what you're going to get out of the episode, right? Proven strategies, funny stories, interesting remarks, but there's a value there, right? Then you're going to get who is it for, or what are you going to get? You're going to get listeners. You're going to get strategies. You know exactly what you're going to get in this episode. It's a mini, pretty much summary of the episode. That's what it is. It's a 1-word summary of your episode. That's what you want. My boy Dan is in the house. Thank you so much for showing up. Hashtag live, baby. Yeah. Remember, I'm doing these shows for you guys so that you guys can become bigger and better than I am. I don't really care. These episodes are for you. I'm giving value because I know in the long run it's going to come back to me. But now, enough of me talking and jib-jabbing and all that. Let's bring it up here. Boom. Get 10 times the listeners with these proven strategies for writing episode titles. How you title your podcast episode is important, and some tips and tricks on how to craft effective and memorable titles that will grab your listeners' attentions. Angela's up in the house. Thank you very much. If you are live, make sure you guys share a link to your episode, your most recent episode, in the comments. That's what we're here for, to support everybody else, because I know each of us have interesting episodes. Now, moving on to here. So here's some avoiding the pitfalls on how to craft compelling episode titles for your podcast. Okay, these are generally the 3 biggest things I see podcasters do when crafting titles, and it's like, oh, I want to help you guys avoid it so you guys don't have horrible titles and you start getting growing up, glowing up. Your podcast keeps going up. All right. So either being too vague, a vague title can you like make it difficult for listeners to understand what the episode is about and discourage them from listening. For example, the secret to success, too general, or like the secret to writing episode titles. It's still a little vague, right? And it doesn't tell the listener what the episode is about. Like I said in the beginning, the proven strategies for achieving success in business is specific and clear. So, like I said, get 10 times the listeners with these three proven strategies for writing episode titles. You know what you're going to get out of this episode. All right. I'm looking around. I'm acting like I'm inside of a classroom. Okay, so that's why I'm looking like this. It's easier for me to teach. You use too much technical jargon. Using jargon that is not familiar to the average listener can make the title hard to understand and discourage people from listening. Good evening, wherever you are. But like I was saying, using too much technical jargon. Now, if I said the five condenser microphones that the top podcasters use, an average listener won't be up for it. They'll be like, what the hell is a condenser mic, right? Only if you're a podcaster, musician, or understand that technical in the audio world, you understand what a condenser microphone is. So what you can do is the five best mics to help you sound like a pro. That's even better, even though you're talking about condenser mics, you jump in, you say, this is condenser mic. Inside the episode, you can go deeper, but you don't want confusing words or weird words in your title, because then you're going to throw off the average Joe. Remember, most people have an average reading level of grade 5. So you want to keep around there. You make your titles too damn long. This meeting is too damn long. A long title can be hard to read and remember, and listeners may miss important information. You want to, like I said, you want to keep it to one sentence. If you can get it as small of a sentence as possible, that's even better. But a sentence that makes sense, that declares the meaning. So avoid these things. So if you're being too vague, if you read that and you say, can my nephew understand that, or a little person? Have I heard of vidIQ? I have heard of vidIQ, Dan. It's awesome. There's TubeBuddy. Those are great tools to use. There's Capsho. Capsho is another great tool to use. But if you don't have the funds to put out with these platforms, these are just things to keep in mind when you're doing your live stream before you do a Capsho or before you do vidIQ and that stuff to make it easier. This is just helpful. Like if you look at it and you're like, that's too technical, you can change it up and stuff, right? AI can help you only so much. You still need to put that human element to give it that je ne sais quoi. All right, so here's the psychology of podcast titling. You need to understand how the brain processes information, okay? The human brain is wired to respond to certain words and phrases, and understands these can help you craft. And understanding this can help you craft episode titles that are more likely to grab listeners' attention. When we encounter a new piece of information, our brain makes a quick assertion of whether or not that information is worth paying attention to. All right, so you have to remember that you want to use very strong sounding words, like using individual words and phrases to grab attention, like secret, proven, uncovered. I use proven in this. How to, tips. You won't believe what happens next. Don't miss out, must listen, or groundbreaking, shocking, mysterious. You can say the shocking tale. I know some people have pop culture podcasts in our group, and it could be like, oh, I don't know how to make it interesting. You go, hear the shocking tale from your guest. Now that's something interesting. Oh, what shocking tale? And I know this guest because I've seen them on TV or something. So now the person's going to be interesting. Or hear the mysterious reason why this character left the show or whatever. Or groundbreaking news for if you're coming up with something important. You won't believe what happened next in Johnny's tale. So like, okay, what happened beforehand in Johnny's tale? These are things that can create FOMO, create something that people want. Oh, you're just wondering? No, I don't. I've heard of it. I haven't used it. But going back here, you use use emotional triggers to invoke a positive feeling, making the listener more likely to tune in. Like in my title, get 10 times the listeners with these 3 proven strategies for writing episode titles. You're going to feel better. What about, oh, so Aaron's got here. What about for a movie review other than saying movie review? So here's 10 things I learned from this movie. And then you can talk about a review. So people are like, oh shit, they learned 10 things from this movie or 10 tips you didn't know about this movie. That's something else you can use. You can just look at the bigger podcasts that are out there in your niche. Like I podcast hack. It's a new term I just created a couple days ago. I podcast hack, and what I that means is I go look at other people's podcasts and I hack what they're doing to be successful. So, if you want to figure that out, you go to listen notes, choose a category, go to their top 10, or just go to Apple's top 10, Spotify's top 10 in your niche, in your category. Look what the top 10 are doing. Go to their episodes. How are they structuring their episodes? How are they writing their show notes? How they do the titles? Go in and listen to the episodes, see how they are structured, see what you like, and take from that and put into a podcast that can make yours je ne sais quoi. Okay. You want a podcast hack. If you want to make your podcast better, you have to hack other people's podcasts. Russell Brunson does funnel hacking. He's a funnel hacker. That's what he calls the people that go through multiple funnels, sales funnels, listener funnels, all that stuff. They become hackers just like that because you're trying to break through and figure out what makes them successful. So study other people's podcasts. If you like it, figure out what makes theirs great, what you like about it, and then just copy it. But also make it your own. Just don't copy it for verbatim what they do. Say, okay, this is what they do. They have this interesting, let's say it's a movie review, okay? All right, we're talking about movie podcast reviews. One, I'm going to use the Weekly Planet. Their episode breaks down with some news. They have some interesting different types of segments. Hate mail. It's hate with an 8, but it's usually more than 8 pieces of mail. They have interesting segments that the audience they bring in. So you're like, okay, I'll have some segments. So you bring in segments. So random fact, boom, boom. You have a random fact about the movie that you just have prepared while you're talking about it, or come at the review in a different light. If you're a hardcore fan of horror movies, go, okay, this is what this horror movie does different than other movies. Don't just give a basic review. Everybody can do a basic review. Make the review something special that's useful to you, and then you can go listen through and go, okay, what is the main point I'm trying to get through in this episode? And if you can't use it, use AI. Get the transcript of your episode. Go to OpenAI, go to Jasper. There's thousands of other things. Summarize this episode or create 5 titles for this episode, and it will create 5 titles for you, and then you can choose and you can see what works. Going back, you can use words that create a sense of exclusivity and intrigue to invoke a sense of community. So horror fans love this movie because listen to find out. Oh, okay, cool. Horror fans, that's a specific community. So their language, find those languages and use those words to entice them over. You want to use phrases and sentences structures that create a sense of urgency to create that feeling of FOMO. Maybe they're missing out. That's something you can use. Use words that create a sense of importance or relevance. Appeal to your audience ego a bit. If you're a horror fan, about this movie. What movie is that? Get that sense, bring them in, make them feel something. You want them, don't think what you would click to listen, what you want your audience to feel when reading that episode title. That's going to help you get things better. All right, so you want to stand out in the crowd, how to create a unique and memorable episode title for your podcast. Now, here are 4 different ways that can help you create that interesting title. Okay, question-based titles. Those are titles pose a question that the episode aims to answer. These types of titles can be effective in grabbing listeners' attention and make them curious to tune in to find out the answer, right? What are the top 5 mistakes this movie makes? What are the top 10 mistakes that Harry Potter and the Half Blood Prince make. And you can just compare the book to the movie. You can do a lot of things. You can be a book-based movie reviewer where you review movies that are based on books. And now you have this thing that you can compare, contrast. What's different? What's not? You know, how-to titles. These are titles provide a clear and concise overview of the topic of the episode and offer practical tools, tips, and strategies for achieving a specific goal. So it's like so we're going to use a movie, how to watch the Harry Potter movies to get the maximum enjoyment. You know, do you watch the condensed version, make it on 2.5, like, 1.5 speed so that it sounds a little funnier? That is something you can do. How the New York Jets messed up this season. Love that you're checking in. If you're just tuning in, make sure you let us know what your podcast is with a link. If you comment, other than just posting in your link, you get to post that link. So if you make a comment, you can share your podcast, any link you want from your podcast. Every comment equals a link you get to share. A new rule we just made up here. If you're listening in as just an audio, make sure you join the Facebook group. It's in the top layer. I go live every Friday at 3 p.m. Things could change, but at the current moment, it's 3 p.m. But when you log on, you'll find that. Here we go. There's so Surdy here. Maybe that's where I stole it from, man. He's been doing watch parties with the Harry Potter and sturdy reviews for it, so that's great. You can do list-based titles. These titles use a form such as 5 ways to improve your productivity, or 10 tips to achieve success in business, or 3 proven strategies for writing episode titles. And you're getting a lot more than 3 in this, I'm telling you. You can do provocative titles. These titles use provocative language or imagery to grab listeners' attention. How not to F up your episode title would have been a great podcast because it's using that provocative title. It's like, oh, is he saying fuck up? What's going on? Who knows? All right, let's move on. Up your podcasting game. All right, here are the 3 tips and tricks for effective episode titles. Experiment with different formats and styles. Try a month worth of, how to, then use provocative, the titles from before. Okay, use different list base, week, and see question base. See what works, what gets more clicks. Control one variable at a time. That's how you make sure shit works. Format episode titles to keep them short and sweet. A long, complicated title can be hard to read and remember and may discourage your listeners from tuning in. Aim for the title that is clear and concise and get to the point across in as few words as possible. Right? This title is kind of long, but I made a point of it because it's like get 10 times the listeners. Using these ideas, you will get 10 times the listeners. Because if you get 1 listener, okay, you get 1 listener. But now if you get 11 listeners, you got 10 times the listeners, right? 20 to 50 and so forth, right? And I'm giving you more than 3 strategies. Use keywords effectively. By including relevant keywords in your title, you can increase the chances of your episode ranking higher in podcast directories and being discovered by new listeners. Research popular keywords in your industry and include them in your title when appropriate. So let's say you're doing a movie review podcast. You can go to Google keyword search. You just Google keyword search, keyword finder, keyword tool. You'll find a whole bunch of free. You can put free, and then you can put in, okay, here is the niche if you want, right? Or find niche hashtag generator for niches, and you go horror movie podcast review, right? Horror movie podcast review. Put that in. You get all the keywords, and you can okay, what keyword, you keep those, right? And hashtags, boom. And then you're like, okay, can I insert any one of these keywords in my title this week? And then you're ranking for that keyword. Look for keywords that are a little easier to rank for so that people will be more inclined, you'll be easier to rank for. Also think about, okay, how will someone find this episode? Right? How will someone search on Google, on Bing, or in the podcast directory to find my episode? What is it that I want them to take away? What are they going to search for to find my episode? Think like that. That's going to help you. Okay. Conclusion. Wait, did I do the last thing? Yeah, keywords. Okay, yeah. Conclusion is always be experimenting to see what works, right? Choose one thing you're going to change. You're going to go, I'm going to do a list-based title for a month, and I'm going to see the results over 60 days and track it. Remember, we grew up with the scientific method: create a hypothesis, test it, track the data, and then repeat. That's what you always have to do. It's not a one one fix solution here. It's multiple iterations. Once you get your episode titles, you get a click through. You can see Google, YouTube will tell you your click through rate. Use that data. Okay, this is getting more. My lists are getting more clicks. Cool. What now? Where are they dropping off? Okay, I'm getting this many drop offs. Okay, how can I fix it? What's going on in that part of the episode? Analyze the data. Maybe it's your show notes. Okay, how can I get my show notes to be better? Okay, now let's see. I'm going to have an episode coming up on show notes. FYI, tease. So you're going to be like that. You're testing different aspects. Once you get down, you're going to get a formula that's perfect. And then you're going to see you're going to rise and explode. And it's going to be like, oh my God, this is an overnight success. And it's not. Okay, because you tested and you proved it. If you want help and you're interested in getting coaching or maybe consulting, I offer 15-minute strategy planning sessions. In 15 minutes, you will leave with an action plan that will be able to help you. If you're interested, go to feelbetterinc.com/consult. Again, that's feelbetterinc.com/consult, and you can get your free 15 minutes with the podcast mogul. I have helped podcasters, small, large, grow their audience, monetize their audience. I've helped make podcasters over 6 to 7 figures with their podcasts. I want to help you guys. My goal is to help make 100 million podcasts, $1 million. So I have generated over $100 million for podcasting and help you get 1 million downloads so that I have helped 100 million downloads. So I thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are great. You are amazing. I wish you all the best. Have a great weekend. And remember to always invest in yourself.